Hello, my name is Daniel, the naturopath, speaking to you about vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D deficiency is widespread, it's well known. Most doctors are advising now to take 10 times the dose that used to be written on what we needed per day, um, that the US government sets. And now they're realizing we need about 10 times more vitamin D per day. One of the best ways to get vitamin D historically was through fat, it's a fat soluble vitamin, so it's found heavily in animals that are outside in pasture, chickens, the schmaltz that they would use from chicken fat, the lard that they would use from, fat from pigs, and all of these needing to be outside, of course, with the sun exposure. Um, but you can find the reason there's such a deficiency now is because a lot of these animals are not in the sunlight anymore, or there's other conditions that are creating less and less health in these farms. And so trying to find a way out of this in a natural way um, has to do with re-understanding food. So one of the best ways to get out of vitamin D deficiency is through blood and herring. Now, both of those items are kind of strange for a lot of people because they're like, oh, what are we going to do with all that? But if most of Americans have roots in different countries coming back to Ireland or Scandinavia or Germany or, you know, um, Europe, Greek, Roman, this history, or Asia as well. I mean, all of these roots come back to using blood as a food. So without using blood as a food, it's almost impossible to overcome some of these deficiencies. You can use it. Blood has the taste. It kind of has a sweet taste, and it can replace eggs in any recipe, even in sweet desserts. I know that they do in what's the name of that country again? Portugal. They combine blood with chocolate for children in these kind of little like hot chocolate type of drinks or whatever, and the children never notice it anyway. I mean, we're just not used to using these things. We think it's strange or weird or whatever, but when it's cooked, it's kind of like an omelet, and it has like a sweet taste to it. So using it in small quantities, or with different types of chicken liver pate, different types of pate, black bread, black pudding, these kind of like sausages that you can recut and then refry on the griddle. This is the big Irish breakfast, black pudding or whatever they call it. A lot of this also comes from Scandinavia, different countries. In Russia, they also use it. I guess every country in the world. Morcilla in Spain. So we're just getting back to some of these saving properties that are found in foods. Blood would be one of the easiest ways to overcome this, even if it's just weekly. A lot of the blood can be found in Asian markets. Usually it's imported from the Philippines, which is probably even better. But even local access to these items would still work, because the blood in and of itself is usually the safest or the purest part of the animal as far as toxicity. It's going to try the best. The body's going to try the best to make sure that is the cleanest possible. So healthy animals, healthy farms, and all this. Yeah, this is all going to be a big part of this. But so that's one way out. The other way out is through herring, which was historically used by the Jews and other cultures around the world. It's the most vitamin D rich, probably thing you can eat. It also comes with these little mini bones that are like so small that they just you meet like you don't detect them, and this is bringing in all this calcium. So the two need to go together, the calcium and the vitamin D, and they whenever they're combined, you have a much greater effect. And so there's this whole idea that you need sunlight as well. Sunlight is definitely a key factor, especially in coastal areas and anywhere you can find it. I mean, I used to have my chickens. I had chickens in the garden at some point, and they would always, when the sun was out, they would always stick their legs out and put themselves in strange shapes because they were trying to get the sun to hit the skin. And I started to notice it. They were trying to, dose up as well. So they were just as smart as we are. Yes, you do have that, but look in Scandinavia. I mean, they have sun is actually a rare phenomenon in certain parts of the year. And the rest of the year, they have all of this like rich fish, vitamin D rich herring. Herring is the staple food of Norway and probably even all of Scandinavia to a certain degree. Um, so these little teeny things that seem like nothing, they can change the whole life cycle, the habits. They can change deep fundamental processes if they're put in place. Just like with broth or any other type of thing that we start to do for ourselves, and we buy the crock pot or whatever, and we start investing, and we make a little effort, and all of these things create lifelong changes. Um, Broth, for example, allows us to get to what they call the threshold of replenishment on a daily basis. Some people have even stated that we're not aging as we think. We think that all of our problems come from aging, but a lot of them are actually coming from the lack of hitting the threshold of replenishment on a daily basis. So we could be stronger into old age, but we have given that power away to industry usually, and we don't cook or we don't think about these things anymore. So this is all coming back now. So for vitamin D deficiency, yes, I would recommend these two items. I would also recommend, like I've been able to make chocolate mousse. I've been able to make brownies. I've been able to make plenty of things with the blood, pig's blood or cow blood, and no one has ever detected it ever. So there's ways of, we're just not being creative enough and not thinking about these things, but they are important. And so we need to overcome vitamin D deficiency so that we can optimize the rest of our body systems, the two biggest ones being magnesium and vitamin D. So the magnesium here in front is what I use to overcome that deficiency, and then food as well. So if I left anything out, yes, of course, you have like cod liver, you have, cod liver oil supplements, and especially fermented, and you have duck fat and goose fat and all these different elements that are very rich if the animal has been treated properly. Shrimp and pork and a lot of these, like seafood is also very rich too. Crabs, when you're inside of a crab, if you open, most people only know about the white meat of the crab. But what they don't realize is that the female crabs, these are like blue crabs, or when you have the whole crab, not just the legs. This is also why we're in trouble, because we're just going for the wrong parts of these animals and we're not figuring this stuff out. But if you really want a high vitamin D dose, all of this little white fat that's in the shell, that's all around, you'll see it on the edges. It's like this, it almost looks like a white butter or something. This is like pure vitamin D as well. So there's a lot of things that we can find in our environment, but we don't. We choose not to, or we don't know about it. And so we throw it out, just like we do with the heads of lobsters. I mean, if you go inside the head of a lobster and with a spoon and pull that out and mix it with mayonnaise, you'll get a little metallic taste on your mouth, but after that, you'll feel like a B12 shot. I mean, like libido triples, like everything triples, And this is all happening because we're throwing this stuff out. And we could just pull it out, mix it with mayo, and do it a different way. Soy-free mayo, by the way. But there's just a different way to do things, and we're just learning this. We're all trying to pay attention now because we're realizing that health is taking a back seat in American life, especially as we age. So anyway, these are some ideas. Put them to use. They do work. Thanks.